It looks like Scott Pilgrim is a big hit. Relive the golden age of Nintendo with a killer omnibus. And HBO Max has got its monster-sized movies ready to go. All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today I'm dedicating it to all of you. Thank you so much for helping EPN cross 60,000 subs. You guys all rock. And speaking of people that rock, Scott Pilgrim is crushing it. It looks like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the Complete Edition, is a big hit. Ubisoft has re-released this title based on a 2010 game that was only available on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 digitally. There was never a physical release, and it disappeared from those stores. So it's been a long time coming to be able to play this game again, and it looks like a lot of people are very excited about this title. The owner of Limited Run Games, which is making a physical release and a collector's edition based on Scott Pilgrim, tweeted out that they sold more than 25,000 copies of Scott Pilgrim for the Switch in less than 3 hours, which makes it the fastest-selling title in their entire history, which is pretty remarkable. And it really speaks to something that I spoke to GameSack's Joe Redifer and Digital Foundry's John Linneman about recently in an episode of Vic's Basement. The fact that game companies have to think beyond that initial release cycle for their titles. And when games disappear from digital stores, it's a huge problem for the industry, not only with regards to archiving these works of art and making them readily available for the history of the medium, but there's just a lot of fans of classic titles. Over the weekend, I put up a side-scrolling superheroes piece on a pretty crappy remake of Turtles in Time, but you can't get that game anymore. It's got to exist on an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 that you might have, and that is just incredibly problematic. It's really a great story that Ubisoft went in and figured out the rights and brought back that classic game with all of the DLC, and now you can pick it up for basically any platform out there. But it's exasperating that games will be released and then disappear because of music issues or license issues. It's just terrible. But I am very happy that Scott Pilgrim is here. I've got a copy. I'll be talking about it very soon. But it looks like it's already a smash success out of the gate. And hopefully this is a big lesson for video game companies out there, especially if they get into licensing different properties to make games out of. Make them available forever. Now, speaking of licensed games that are caught up in all kinds of rights issues, I recently got a fantastic gift in the mail. Schiffer Publishing has just printed copies of Brett Weiss's NES Omnibus Volume 1. This is A to L, and what it is a compendium of information on all of the classic NES cartridges. Every page is filled with information on specific titles, screenshots. There are all kinds of great personal tidbits about these games, quotes, maybe some anecdotes related to playing these games originally. All kinds of fantastic experts have contributed to this book, and there's just a ton of information to dive into, and it's really a collector's dream. I mean, this will give you a whole bunch of data on these specific games and why they're worth our attention today in 2021. And you know, I was such an enormous fan of the SNES Omnibus books that Brett put together. I wanted to talk to him about the brand new NES Omnibus. How does it feel to see this thing out in the wild, Brett?
Well, it's always a big relief because these books are exhausting. They take up a ton of time. I usually like to take a month off after a book, but sometimes that's tough to do. And I've really loved when it gets out there and people start getting their copies. It's always exciting when people like submit selfies or post them on social media, you know, them holding the book, or they're just, you know, I get private emails expressing their excitement.
Why is it important to be talking about the NES in 2021?
Well, the NES informed what games would be like for many years up to the present. You know, franchises started on the NES, like, you know, Super Mario Brothers and Metroid and Legend of Zelda. These major franchises that started on the NES permeate today, and you can see in a lot of the gameplay designs, you know, just the way worlds are divided up or just the expansive nature of modern games. That goes back to the NES, so it's very important. A lot of people grew up playing the NES when they were young. I got mine when I was 20 in 87 from my brother, a parent level gift from my brother, so that was exciting. Playing Super Mario Brothers the first time blew me away.
You also made the SNES Omnibus, which I'm a huge fan of. Are you a bigger fan of the Super Nintendo or the NES? Which one's your favorite out of those two?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I've got so many. I have so many favorites on both consoles, but it would be a cheat to call it a toss-up. So I would probably say the Super Nintendo, just because some of those games, like, your Contra, your Castlevania, your Zelda, they took a step forward on the Super Nintendo. So I'd probably err on the side of the Super Nintendo. I would give the edge to Super Nintendo, just barely.
Thanks for being in the rundown, Brett, especially on such short notice. I appreciate it, buddy. Now, making the move from some classic cartridges to some classic monsters and superheroes, HBO Max has got a lot on their plate. A couple of months ago, HBO Max made the commitment that every big movie that they've got coming out in 2021 is going to hit theaters and the HBO Max streaming service on the same date. We already saw that with Wonder Woman 1984, but the string of big titles is going to continue. Of course, there was some back and forth with some of the production partners and some of the talent involved in these big movies, notably Legendary Entertainment, who not only has Dune coming out later this year, but Godzilla vs. Kong. And apparently everything is getting worked out because Godzilla vs. Kong's release date just got moved up. It's coming out in March. So we don't have very long to wait for this big behemoth monster movie. And the other bit of news related to HBO Max that just hit is that Zack Snyder's famed Snyder Cut of the Justice League, which has been going back and forth as perhaps 4 one-hour episodes, is now actually going to be a 4-hour movie on HBO Max. And we're going to get more information on the flick in February. I saw that on Grace Randolph's channel. So I am very much looking forward to seeing how the Snyder Cut comes together. And of course, there's all that back and forth conflict between Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg in Justice League, and Warner Brothers. It looks like he has been removed from the new Flash movie that's coming up from Warner Brothers. So honestly, I'm just really curious to see if the wait will be worth it, if the Snyder Cut is going to live up to the hopes and expectations. I'm happy that Zack Snyder is finally going to be able to see his vision realized. I just hope it's a fantastic movie. But it does seem like a lot of the conflicts that were going on around Hollywood with some of the directors, like Denis Villeneuve was famously really against the idea of Dune also appearing on HBO Max, and there's been some question about what's going to happen now with any potential sequels for Dune and whether Denis Villeneuve will be a part of them. But it feels like some of that conciliation is starting to happen, and some compromise, and people are coming together and shaking hands and drafting up those contracts. Denzel Washington famously got a very big payday for his work on The Little Things, which is coming soon to HBO Max. I've seen the film, actually, and there's some really good stuff in that movie. It's just an amazing era that we're living in, where we get these massive pictures with huge Hollywood superstars, but they might come to us like they did with Wonder Woman 1984 through our television sets now. But what can you do? There's a pandemic raging out there. I'm just wondering how a massive monster movie like Kong vs. Godzilla is going to translate to our home theaters. But I'm going to be there day and date. I'm also super excited to finally see this new Mortal Kombat that we're getting little bits and pieces of imagery from. So lots of big movies, you could say monster-sized movies, headed our way on HBO Max. And I'm going to wrap things up with the announcement that Everspace 2 has entered early access on Steam. Just got that press release today. The game looks really cool. Apparently there's 25 hours of content for people to be able to check out already. Lots of cool dogfighting sequences and flying through space bases and stuff. This was a Kickstarter game that got its funding really quickly, and it's an ambitious title from Rockfish, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a look-see. I'm a big fan of space shooters out there. So if you're interested, you can check out Everspace 2 right now. It's in early access as of today. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to all of our subscribers that helped us get over the 60K mark. That's awesome, and I am so grateful. Thank you to the longtime EPN subscribers and viewers that have been watching us for years and years, all of our EPN members, and, of course, to all of you folks that have just subscribed recently. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.